Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm with a very special guest, the one and only Glendal TauTua.
What's up, everybody?
You're definitely the first Samoan on the podcast. I have to give you
Let's
that.
go. I'm the first at something. That's funny.
Hell yeah, dude! I didn't even know because Samoan culture in general is very cultural, and I'm guessing you guys already do like a lot of singing with your family and everything like that. And I was like, I've never known like an actual like Samoan rapper or singer, so I think that's hella unique.
I know. Well, that's why, and that's something I'm super proud of. I grew up listening to a lot of Samoan artists, but not a lot of Samoan artists who talk about the things that we see in some of, my communities growing up. And so, yeah, it's dope to be out there as kind of a singer and a rapper who's Samoan. So,
For sure. And you grew up in White Center, correct?
yeah, I grew up in White Center, West Seattle area. I was born and raised in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and then spent some time in Samoa, but for the most part, my most formative years were in White Center.
Mm. So
Yep.
people just whitewash the fuck out of Hawaii, then they just call it Hawaii, and it's how do you pronounce it actually?
Hawaii. I can't even do Hawaii. It's a Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii. You gotta, be strong with the vowels. We're all about the vowels. Hawaii.
Yes.
Yep.
So how old were you when you moved to White Center then?
I was about 11 years old, man. We left the island because, what's happening out here in all of our low-income neighborhoods with gentrification, that's been
Mm.
happening in Hawaii since it was taken over back in the 40s or 50s. And so we just got pushed out the island.
Yeah, I can
So
tell with fucking all the tourism there. Like everyone's like, "Oh, where am I gonna go this? Where am I gonna go for winter break or whatever?" Definitely there.
we call them howlies.
Mm.
Howlies. If you're an outsider, you're a howlet.
It's probably pretty obvious too, then, huh? If
Okay.
someone's touring or not.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they got big old aloha shirts on,
Ah,
pictures everywhere. I'm like, why you
oh,
taking a picture of this palm tree, man? This palm tree been standing here for years.
fuck that.
Like,
So what high school did you go to? You go like Chief Sealth or anything like that, or?
I went to Evergreen High School, man,
Okay.
smack dab in the middle of White Center, and so
Damn.
that's the school I went to.
Probably been through a lot through that school then.
Oh my God, that's cool. I was wilding, bro. I was
Mm.
not a good kid. If anyone sees this, my teachers are watching this. I'm sorry.
Mm.
I was just wilding out, getting into trouble. Because, at Evergreen, it's super diverse, but also, like, at that time, it was, like, gang heavy. Everyone had something to prove. And so, yeah, I was just wilding out.
Mm. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 26. I graduated
Okay.
in 2012.
Wow. I just
Uh,
my stepdad's from around that area also actually, and I somehow managed to like interview one of his childhood friends, and like they were like literal like childhood friends, and then they hadn't seen each other since they were like 8 or something. And he's like, that name sounds very familiar. And then he listened to the interview, he's like, yeah, I know this guy. So basically, I interviewed this guy named Desmond Hansen, and he I don't know if you've seen the murals around White Center, but like he paints on like electrical boxes and stuff like that.
I
Like he
have.
just
Yeah.
yeah. I
Is
recently
that him?
interviewed him.
Well, that's funny. Well, that's what happens. West Seattle, White Center, it's a real small world. If you grew up there, chances is the people in the community know who you are or your family.
Mm.
So, yeah.
I did a football in Rainier Valley, and so I came from like the east side of Seattle, so I was like the only one that never I didn't grow up in the Rainier Valley or anything, so I just came down there because I wanted like a different football experience. So
Right.
I get there, and literally everyone on the team was related. They're all Samoan, and they're related in some way. And I was the one guy. I was like, "Oh, hey everyone!" It was fucking funny as fuck.
Hey, everyone.
Everyone was related.
Oh, that's how it is, man. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it's one
Yeah.
big old family. You're probably
Mm-hmm.
all saying, you know what the word oos means?
Mm-mm.
It's like, bro,
Ah.
oos. So we say oos a lot, but yeah.
They all call me
Bro,
nappy hair because I was the only one with like long ass hair then, and everyone was like,
that's
nappy
messed
hair.
up. My Samoans got nappy hair, too. I don't know what they're talking about.
I know, right? But yeah, so I also figured out. So you work at UW, right? You're a admissions counselor, or just what do you do there?
Yep, I'm an admissions counselor for the Multicultural Outreach and Recruitment team.
Hmm.
And so basically on that team, there are five different admissions counselors that represent five different affinity groups. And so we have an African American counselor, a Latinx counselor, Native American, Southeast Asian, and then I'm the Pacific Islander counselor. And
Hmm.
so my work is just making sure that Pacific Islander students have the resources they need to apply to UW, but also make sure that they know what they're coming to if they're interested in UW. And so I love what I do. It's education driven, and I get to work in low income communities, and Evergreen's one of the schools I recruit from. And so I love going back into my high schools and all these different high schools that I grew up around to promote higher education, because I strongly believe in education, especially for our young Samoans, because it's not really a pathway that many of us take.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was very beautiful when I was doing that research. I saw your little there's like a little YouTube video of you on like the UW website saying who you are and everything. And I was like, oh,
Oh
this
man, I
guy.
know, I know. I look so corny in those videos. I'm really good at my white voice too. Hi, how you doing? My name is Glendal TauTua, and I'm an admissions counselor.
Yeah, dude,
Uh,
that's beautiful. I feel like, do you think your experience in high school made you want to be part of the UW experience and like help everyone get in? Because I feel like being from like a low income area, you probably know a lot of people who didn't want to go to college, and I feel like you're changing that stigma or stereotype, and like you're helping them.
yeah, definitely. I had a really I struggled a lot in high school and in college. I didn't like the classroom. I didn't like school at all. What I really enjoyed was the opportunity to grow and the opportunity to be independent, right? In a Samoan household, man, your parents are in charge of your life. You go to school, you go to football, wrestling practice, you come home.
Mm.
And so when I was finally able to be on my own, I was forced to learn a lot of things and grow on my own. And also just how much that degree mobilizes you, right? Like just to have that piece of paper, I can walk into different departments and be like, I want to work here, and this is what I majored in. And so a lot of people from my community were surprised when I ended up finishing and graduating from college, just because, and rightfully so. Like I said, I was messing around a lot. Um, but yeah, it really is my goal through a couple different nonprofits that I work through too in White Center, to make sure that at least Pacific Islanders in our community know that education is an option, right?
Hmm. For sure.
You know.
So how do students take it when they find out that you're like a recording artist?
Oh man, oh, this is funny. I got so many funny stories. I went into Foster High School to the Polynesian club there,
Hmm.
and I hear one of the kids whispering like, "Hey, he's famous, he's famous," and another kid next to him was like, "He's not famous. That fool working you down." Oh man, I was like, "Yeah, bro." I mean, one, I'm not famous. I'm still a nobody. But the kids in our community definitely listen to my music. And they're my biggest supporters, really. Like I get DMs from students I've worked with at Tai High School, Evergreen High School, Foster High School, of just kids that are like, "Hey man, keep going. We love the new song." And for me, man, that's all I really need.
Mm.
All I need is their kind of, support and acceptance. All the rest is for the birds, man.
I swear to God, I've listened to your album because I reached out to you like it was either like it was not even that long ago, honestly, probably like a week, maybe a week. And
Yeah,
I've
maybe.
I've listened to your album like 10 times all the way through already.
Damn. So you really
Like,
know it.
yeah, dude, that fucking album, I think it's really well produced. I think I just thoroughly enjoyed it because like I feel like what a lot of people have been doing during this pandemic is kind of releasing like throwaway albums because they know no one's going to be really focusing on it that much. But I
Right.
think I felt like I could tell, like I could feel the soul in it, and I felt like you put a lot of time and effort into it, and it really showed, in my opinion.
Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because I mean most of the songs on this album have been recorded for about a year and a half now.
Mm,
So the rest was just work figuring out timing. Originally the album was supposed to come out in February, but then COVID started kind of taking the reins, and then we tried to push it back to May,
mm.
and then everything going on in the world with the killing of unarmed black men, George Floyd, all that noise started to happen, and I was just like, man, it'd be super insensitive to release music and to try to push it while all of this needs to be in the forefront. And so I really appreciate you saying that, because it was a long road of figuring out the timing and figuring out what exactly would go where. And so, yeah, I appreciate that a lot, man.
Mhm. And the title of the album is Bonnie and Greenwood, correct?
Yep, Bonnie and Greenwood.
And I
And
feel
so,
like, is it just from, this might just be my perspective, but I feel like you kind of like, because from my research, it was, those are like two funeral homes, correct? And I feel
mhm.
like you like personified them though in a way, like Bonnie and Greenwood. Was that all intentional or?
Yeah, it was actually intentional. And I mean, the original cover art idea for the album was me and one of my nieces, and we found a Greenwood Elementary, and I was gonna take a picture of one of my nieces walking into Greenwood Elementary,
Mm,
and so we would kind of personify Greenwood being a place, and Bonnie being, a young girl or a woman,
damn.
uh, and that kind of unfolded itself and didn't work out. But yeah, we were really trying to personify that, and so that people didn't really know exactly what I was referring to.
Hmm. You could always do that for the deluxe album if you ever release one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're giving me ideas, man.
Hmm. You
Yep.
don't have to go in depth if you don't like, but because I know you've already talked about it on multiple articles. But if you'd like
Mhm.
to explain the meaning of how you came up with the name, you're more than
Yeah,
welcome to.
yeah, for sure. So Bonnie and Greenwood is basically Greenwood Memorial, which is in Ren, is where my brother Mikey is buried. And then over in SeaTac, Bonnie Watson Memorial is where one of my brothers Wayne is buried at. And so when I first got here from Hawaii, I basically, like, me and all my siblings were like crammed into one room. We lived with like 23, 24 different people.
Damn.
So yeah, every day was like rest tournaments in our room. I was getting beat up. I was getting picked on because I was like the middle child. So we were all really tight knit. So when they both, Mikey and Wayne both passed away in September of 2006, just 10 days apart from each other. And so that really took a toll on my family, especially since both incidents were because of gun violence.
Mm,
One was an accidental gunshot in my bedroom, um, uh, and the other one was Wayne was shot at South Center Mall. And so after Wayne had passed away, me and some of my brothers had some feelings, right? One of my brothers got a gun, ended up bringing it home, and that gun ultimately was the gun that killed Mikey.
mm,
And so it was a really impactful year for myself and my family, that really defined, I mean, the rest of my life. And so everything I was talking about in the album has a lot to do with my family and reconciliation and being okay, right? Being okay, accepting all the bullshit that a lot of us go through.
hmm.
And so I felt like it was only right to somehow pay tribute to two of my brothers who played a huge role in how I see the world.
For sure. Are you had pretty strong opinions on gun violence then and everything that's going
Oh
on?
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I hate guns.
Mm,
I never own one. I don't touch them. My friends have guns. I might look at it for a second, but all my friends know that people always say guns, people don't, or guns don't kill people. People kill people. That's not always the case, man. I've seen and been around families who did everything right, but still an accident happened, right? Or you have mass shootings, right? Regulations on guns in general, there are none,
mm,
right? If you have mental health issues, it doesn't matter. You could still go and purchase a gun or a firearm tomorrow with very little, right? Not too much of a background check. There are no real strict regulations. They say, yeah, put it in a safe, keep it in a safe space. Nobody checks, right?
mm,
And so, yeah, I have real strong opinions on on gun laws.
for
And a
sure.
lot of my friends don't agree, which is okay too, right? I respect their right to carry. And shoot, a lot of them feel like they need it and probably do need it. But that's just not my cup of tea, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's get into this album. I can't even
Yeah.
pronounce the first song. It's like a skit type thing. It's an
Yeah.
opening intro. Explain that.
It's Ile Amatanga,
Hmm.
and Amatanga pretty much means the beginning. And so basically what it translates into is in the beginning.
Gotcha. Cool.
So,
And it was like, I think you were like saying, like, let's go, man, or something like that. You kind of get like pumped up in the intro.
yeah, Cham, who's pretty much produced the whole album and mixed and mastered the whole thing, uh, had this idea of us just opening up in a way that, was like him asking me if I'm ready. And I was like, yep, I'm ready. And I had a little
Nice.
COVID cough in there. It wasn't intentional, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like skits are like dying. Like people aren't really putting skits on anymore, and I feel like they're really necessary. Like Big Sean's new album. Did you listen to that?
Still have not, but that's on my
Ah,
to-do list. Like, it's been on my to-do list for like since it came out. And so,
it's nuts. He has like four skits or something like that, and
mm,
like each of them are like a different artist or celebrity, like telling a little story about how they've connected with Big Sean, or they're just giving like advice Like
Right,
Stevie
right,
Wonder
right.
has his own skit. Dave Chappelle has his own skit. It's pretty nice.
And yeah, I gotta tune into that. But yeah, I love skits and albums.
For
You know?
sure. So the first actual song is called "Whoa," and just this is the first part that stuck out to me. It's like it's not my fault. I had a crazy dad. And I was like, oh shit, I can feel that.
That's a loaded stick. Oh, that's funny.
So culture's very important for certain people and certain ethnicities. I don't know if culture has really touched me quite yet, or religion has touched me quite yet. I like to believe that the universe is what happens. Like I feel like God, Buddha, every other religion falls under the universe. I like to accept everything, but I feel like
Sure.
family must be very important to you. Do you feel like whatever happened between you and your dad, or whatever happened with your family,
Yeah.
defines you as a person, or do you?
Uh,
Because I'm going through a path where I feel like maybe family defines me, or maybe I can just make my own path and
yeah.
accept the experiences that happen with my family. But
Yeah. I mean, family for me is everything. Just because uh, I kind of told you about all the trauma that we kind of been through, and then on top of that, we never really had things, right? Like
mm,
we never had money, we never had new toys, and and so all we really had was each other. And so me and my siblings are like this, and we talk every day. We share everything with each other. Um, but to the point about my dad, he was like, he was the one dude in my life that just like was not there.
mm,
And so he was also just kind of sporadic. He has anger issues, bipolar. Didn't know he doesn't really care about anyone but himself. And I wasn't one of those kids who were like, man, F my dad. I was always like, man, I really want a dad. I think
mm.
having a dad seems super cool. Like all my friends with dads are freaking awesome. Uh, and I always kind of like felt like I played a part in that. And so saying that, it's not my fault I had a crazy dad and a good heart. My mama gave me that was just talking about like my past with him, but also I still had this woman in my life who still made sure I was okay.
Holding it down for you, which is
Yep.
another song on the album we'll get into. So how many siblings do you have then?
Now I'm the middle child of 12. But the way that that kind of works out and plays itself, if we're talking about blood relationally, there's stepbrothers, there's adopted sisters and brothers. There's first cousins that we had adopted and brought from the island. And so in our own real blood way, a lot of us aren't biologically blood brother and sister, but don't tell us that
Mm.
because we were tossed into the same home, raised by the same parents and the same people. And so every time they're like, "Dang, your mom must have," I'm like, "Nah, it's all different parents, different,
I
yeah,
understand that. I only have like half siblings, so I definitely understand that.
yeah,
So the hook of that song was, "I'm really trying to free my mind, but the past seems to haunt me." Can you go
yeah,
into the depth of the hook? I feel like hooks are always very important to wrap up a song, and hooks is usually what sticks with people because people aren't always singing like the lyrics. They're always like the hook's what's stuck in your head all the time, you know?
yeah. I think that's one thing that I kind of not really pride myself on, but I've always been kind of naturally good at is coming up with things that are somewhat catchy, just from growing up and pounding on tables and making up stupid songs here and there. But for that, I remember the day that I wrote that. I was really, really feeling down, and I was like, man, I just can't get past this. Like,
Mm,
I tell people that I've worked on all the stuff, right, and I got past all of that, but I haven't. And so, I just had this feeling of like, I'm really trying to free my mind, but I can't because
mm.
I got all this bullshit that keeps popping up when I try. And so I think that's where that came from. And I remember showing Cham that song and that part specifically, and he was like, "This is the intro. This
Mm.
is the intro to your album." And so, yeah,
Dude, I
just
don't even know which my favorite song on this album is. Like, I liked every single song, and then like
man,
anytime Cham got on, I was like, oh shit, you guys just fit so good together.
that guy's smooth. He's something different, Yeah.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about the background between you and Cham. I of course I'm newer to your music. I definitely don't know who Cham is. I just know him from your like guest verses. So tell me a
Right,
little bit
right,
more
right.
about him.
Cham, he's been rapping and making music in the neighborhood since he was like 12 years old. And so he started making music with actually my older brother. His name was Lorenzo. And Lorenzo was really popular back in the day in White Center. opening up for artists and performing everywhere. People knew all his lyrics to all his songs. They kind of stopped making music, but me and Cham went to the same high school, and during that period of time, got pretty close.
Hmm.
And so even after he made music with Lorenzo, he went off to college before I did because he was about 3 years older than me. To Evergreen State College, and he would
Hmm.
drive back from Evergreen State College some weekends at like 1 o'clock in the morning and knock on the door and wake us up. Hey, bro, let's go eat. Let's go to Denny's. And so this fool would be driving us to Denny's and my mom would let him too.
Oh
And she'd be like,
shit.
"Who's that? Who's that?" Oh, it's Champ. Oh yeah, you guys can go. At 1 o'clock in the morning on a school night, there,
Damn.
so we were over there eating Denny's. Like he just took care of me and my other younger brother Alex really well, and just kept looking out. And so when I got to the point where I started making music, um, I hit him up for an opportunity because he never stopped, and he was still making moves and still creating music. And so I just asked him like, "Hey, can you put me on?" And he was like, "We'll see."
Hmm.
And the rest kind of played itself out.
Damn.
You know?
Well, like I said, I really love your sound. It's you do a great job of mixing and singing with rapping. Was which one was harder for you to feel comfortable with? I know like for some singers it's really hard for them. Like this is like your debut album too, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And like what I've noticed when it comes to at least local artists, because you can always once you get signed, you could always re-release your debut album and like make tweaks. But what I've noticed with like local artists, their debut albums are a lot really filled with like auto tune because they're not really comfortable with their voice yet. They think that's what everyone wants to hear. But with you, I feel like it's your true singing voice. And how did that process of feeling comfortable with your voice come to be?
Man, I do not call myself a singer because I grew up rapping mostly, and all my other siblings, a lot of my other siblings have ridiculous voices. I just kind of learned how to harmonize and carry a tune, but it wasn't until I really got around Cham, and then another producer goes by the name of Uswain, also
Mm,
known as Troy. He heard that song one night, and I kind of just wrote that on a limb. Oh no, he heard the song Extra,
mm,
and he was like, "Yo, this fool Glendale got vocals. Like, bring him in. You need to tell him he got to sing more." And so that's when my confidence started building. And I was like, "Hey, Cham, I'm gonna try to write a singing song." He's like, "Bro, do it. I swear it's gonna be a hit." I was like, "Yo." I went back to the drawing board and wrote one night. And when I
damn.
brought it back to the studio, he was wilding out. He was like, "Oh, see, I told you." And so they really kind of pushed me to keep singing. And then I'm a real big Chance the Rapper fan. And he's not necessarily a singer, but he has a way um, to make his voice appealing while he's hitting certain notes.
Mm,
And everyone has that ability. Whether you can sing or not, everyone has a way, can find a way to make your voice appealing.
mm.
And so I kind of took notes from Chance the Rapper's singing rap style and kind of just try to put it into one.
For sure. Dude, everyone like when he released The Big Day, everyone just like completely shit on that album for the first like month and a half. And
That's
then it
one of my
took me a
favorite albums.
while because I'm not one to like just listen to what everyone says when it comes to music because I listen to whatever I want.
Right,
But like I was like, you know what? These critics are a little bit right. It's just kind of him being too happy and it's kind of like the big gay, honestly. So it took me
right.
like it literally took me a full 6 months of actually listening and like dissecting the album to be like, holy shit, like his album was actually made really well.
Yeah,
And people feel like you have to talk about drugs or strippers or whatever, but no one gives shit to like Jay-Z for 444. So I'm like,
right.
why can't people give Chance's album a listen? And like when you really listen to it, the people that he like actually was able to mold together for certain songs, I'm like, holy fuck. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
I just really appreciated the album.
Yeah, that shit was thoughtful. And what I love about it, as someone who followed Chance since I was maybe like 14, so damn, that's like 10, 12 years now, to like progressively see the growth through each album. And then to get to a point where when I was first listening to Chance, I was talking about popping pills and doing shit. Now that I'm 26 and we kind of grew at the same pace because we're around the same age, he's talking about marriage and life and his kids and things that are of importance. And that's where my mind has been at now. And so to see that growth, for me, the big day just really resonated with me.
Yes, for sure. I still don't understand the album cover though, but besides that, I really enjoyed the album.
Yeah, I
Like
don't know either.
it was like a CD with like
Yeah, right.
sparkles. I don't know.
When you're that big, you can just put a freaking butthole on your album cover and
Oh my
people will think
god.
it's artistic.
Trippy Red, because I follow like little Reddit pages to connect with like different art scenes and stuff like that.
Right.
And I guess I follow like a Trippy Red Reddit page, and he posted his newest album cover because he's about to release a new album called like Pegasus or something.
Mm.
And it's basically like him photoshopped with abs, like completely naked with some like nude underwear, so it looks like it's the exact same color as his skin, like in
Yeah,
front of like a photoshopped Pegasus, and
I
people
need
were
to
just
see.
completely shitting on that. I was like, oh my god.
I need to see that. Or who's the Pop Smoke album cover?
Oh shit, that was
Super,
terrible.
super clown. I was like, what kind of 2000 freaking, yeah, that shit was funny.
And they're like, you know what, let's just opt for this little black rose and just call it good.
Right, right. Yeah.
That's funny as fuck. So the second song, All I Need, the hook is I don't need money or fame, just something to get me through the pain. So I feel like you kind of went in depth with that a little bit, but I'd like for you to go in depth a little bit more. You're kind of just saying like it's more important for your community to understand you and be an
Yeah.
inspiration for your community. Am I on the right track for that?
Yeah, I was just, and I actually, when I say is get me through this day, uh, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. What I really like about that song is, um, I was just really trying to flex some of my play on words, like in the beginning with the rhyme scheme. Can't remember what it is, because I would rather be casually sampling drinks with people who matter than people who, and so I had a lot of fun with that song. But yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's not too many layers to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
uh, I just name all the small things that really made me happy growing up, like store runs at 4 o'clock in the morning, or just being with the fam.
For sure. This is a minute question, but why the beat change at the very end? You like decided to harmonize? Was that just out of the blue, or what made you decide to do that?
So that was actually a change up that Cham really was like, hey man, like, let's put this in there. It'll be a good segue into one night, right? Because of the way the piano kind of comes in and it slows down.
Mm.
And then the homie Lake Stovall, who's a dope artist, uh, who just kind of moved here from Seattle and is doing great work. He is the one who's actually singing on that part.
Oh wow.
Because again, I was like, man, these ones are kind of rough for me. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to hit this, and so he came through and sang it.
For sure. So this one night song, like that one was stuck in my head for a few days, and I was like, oh, I need to show my friends this. So I showed one of my friends, and she was like, this song's so offending to me. Why are you sending me this? Because you're like saying, I only want one night or whatever like that. And then I read your press release, and you're kind of saying it's like I felt like you're trying to say in the press release that this was you kind of explaining stigmas and stereotypes. Like this is what I wrote down. I was like, is this how you feel, or is this how you felt, or have you seen other people feel like this? And because you said you're like a family guy, so I don't know if family guys are talking about one nights or whatever, but break that down for me.
Yeah, no, that's really funny. Actually, well, I think it's a little bit of both, but mostly what it was I think during the time that I wrote that song, I was going through a little breakup,
Mm.
and I'm not. I love a good love song. Don't get me wrong. But in that, and I originally when I heard that beat, I was like trying to write like a love song, and I just wasn't feeling it. I'm like, bro, this is not even true. Like, I'm
Mm.
not in love with anyone. If anything, I'm out here being a hoe. Like, why would I write about, finding the one when I'm out? And then I was like, you know what? And then I just went to town writing about exactly that. Like, I spent my time on Instagram looking at, and going out and hanging out. Then that's what I was doing at the time. And so
Mm.
the two kind of lined up. So it's pretty shallow.
Very catchy though. Very fucking catchy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So with Extra, like my interpretation was because you kind of have two songs that are kind of similar, like Extra and Mirrors kind of relate to each other in my opinion. So with
Yeah.
Extra, I felt like it was you were saying we want to be anyone but ourselves. Is this kind of more about like social media and how people like fake it and are not
Yeah.
true to themselves, I guess, or
Yeah, pretty much. I think it was just, yeah, standard that social media holds, but also being a Samoan man and kind of the looks that I get when I'm walking through the neighborhood or just like when my mouth is closed and I'm just on a bus and I'm like this.
got RBF.
People are, yeah, yeah, pretty much. People don't take well to me and they're intimidated usually. And a lot of Samoans experience that. But when you get to know me, I'm a goof and I'm wilding out and I'm laughing and I'm talking, I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And that's kind of what I wanted to say. It's like, man, I'm an extra ass person, and I think that people were surprised by that, or that
Damn.
I could not be that silly, goofy, dancing big teddy bear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the song is about.
That is so weird though that you say that because like whether it's like the music scene or just people in general in Seattle, you see a lot of diversity, but still people are kind of like afraid of that diversity, even though like I'm like you can say Seattle's very diverse. We got the Chinatown, we got International District, we got all these things, we got different neighborhoods, and like you said, you're like a guidance counselor for like Islanders. Like that's nuts. Like I don't know if every school has that. So I think that's
Yeah,
pretty crazy. And then but then you're like, yeah, I'm on the bus or something, and people are like, oh shit.
right. Yeah, we might be diverse, but not everyone likes that diversity. You know,
Mm,
it's unwelcoming and it's uncomfortable, and people don't like to be uncomfortable. And
yeah,
so that's where I was going with it.
for sure. So are you like tall as fuck too or something? Or are you like completely
Oh man,
confused?
I'm actually only 5'9". People
Oh
think I'm
shit.
taller than I am, but yeah, I'm not tall at all, bro. I'm just
The
a little
beard gives you
bit.
growth.
Yeah, I'm like 220, you know, so not exactly small.
Damn. Holy
Uh,
shit. So the next song, anyway, I felt like this song could have been about like vices. Could you like smoke that anyway, drink that anyway?
yeah, yeah, pretty much. I went into a whole bunch of different directions with it, but yeah, I just I have a lot of vices in my own life. Uh, people see me as this happy person, but I went through injuries and I started taking pain medications in high school. I went through a phase with that. I've seen people struggle through alcoholism, um, smoking weed, and I don't think weed is a bad thing by any means. But I mean, I know people who, man, they wake up, they smoke, they go
Hmm.
to a meeting, they gotta smoke for everything. And really, where the idea came from was I worked at Tautua High School uh, for 2 years, and at Tautua High School, I ran the in-school suspension program,
Hmm.
and one of the kids was telling me, like, man, it really don't matter what you do, Mr. G. I'm gonna smoke anyway. and so And so I started thinking about my own life and that same sentiment because he was right. It's like, man, I can only help you so much. I'm not gonna say his name, I almost said his name. I can only help you so much. But you're right, man. You're gonna do it anyway. So let me support you how I can, and that's on you, right?
Hmm. Here's a
So that's
joint.
what, yeah, yeah. Enjoy that. But that's where the idea of anyway came up.
Hmm. Dope song again too.
Thank
So
you,
back to
man.
Mirrors, I felt like this song was more of like self-image, loving yourself. It was a very soulful song, reminded me of the church. And
Mm,
like in one of your press releases, you're talking about like your bun and everything like that, and like when you look at yourself in the mirror. So just dive
yeah,
into that a little bit.
man. This is my favorite song on the album, only because as I wrote it, I got super emotional. I was like, dang, I didn't realize that I felt so strongly about this. Just the awareness you need to have as a person of color in America, right? The awareness you need to have of not being intimidated. Dang, did I just use my hood voice just now? Right? Um, can I wear my hair down when I go to UW and I sit in my office? That unprofessional?
Mm,
Um, Dang, I'm getting a little dark. What the heck? No, like, why am I getting? These are all messages, and like that darkness, anti-dark, anti-blackness messages were messages I got as a kid from God knows where. You know what I mean? And so when I started to think about all those things, that's why I'm like hide my culture in a bun, keep my skin about the sun because melanin in hair are often feared when it's unfurled. And that's just how I felt. Like it's it's tiring to do
yes.
this all the time. And so like I see myself in these different places, and I'm code switching constantly. And it just felt, and that's where the concept of mirrors came. Like all these different mirrors, and I'm tired of it. Damn, just get the hell away from me. Really is what it's about.
Yeah, for sure. That is tough. I don't know how things are gonna go, but I feel like everyone talks about acceptance, but then like when you're actually like a minority, you're like, what acceptance are you actually talking about? Because we're not really seeing that. But like, or like when you're going to the, like in Seattle, like all the Black Lives Matter protests, the majority of them are like white people, like, and you guys are like spray painting on buildings and shit, like making it about yourselves. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, bro. That's a whole nother thing, man. Yeah,
Fucking
it
nuts.
sucks. Yeah, it is.
So speaking of like UW, are people going to like classes right now, or is it more like online?
Everything's pretty much online. So you hear my niece in the background. Everything's pretty much online. Uh, they probably won't go back to in-person learning for a while now. Uh, so all of my events that I do with like rising seniors and stuff, that's all virtual sessions.
Mm,
So I'm doing a bunch of events. I got right before I got on the phone or the call with you, I was speaking with Pacific Islander students and doing a little panel. And so pretty much all of everything I do is virtual now, which kind of sucks. It's driving me crazy, but
yeah. Do you think the virtualness, I guess, like loses the impact of like exciting people to go to school and everything like that? Like you said, like you're talking to like graduating seniors getting ready to go to college. They must not even really be paying attention if you're like, oh, we're gonna do this all virtually.
yeah, a little bit. I have parents who always, who are asking me like, if you guys are going to be doing not going to be doing in-person learning, why shouldn't my student go to community college and spend a year or two there and then go to UW? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Why don't they, right? Because my job as an admissions counselor is be like, this is all the great stuff that's UW. But my job as a person is to be real. And so
Yeah.
when parents ask me that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, that is a very good and viable option. I mean, you still have to apply and you might not get back in, but
Hmm.
shoot, whatever is best for you and your family financially, like that's what's most important to me and should be to y'all. And so there's definitely been a lot of parents and families concerned about sending their kids, but also just thinking smarter financially, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So does the staff still have to go into the school though, or can they work from home?
Man, I've been in my bedroom for 7 months, man.
Holy shit.
8 months. I've been working from home March, uh, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, going on 8 months.
Damn, I forgot how long it's been. 8 months now, basically. That's fucking nuts.
Pretty much spend my whole life in that room and then occasionally at the studio
Oh my god, it's
and
fucking
doing like
crazy.
stuff. Yeah, stuff.
So the next song on the album
Mhm.
got two more basically. Hold It Down. When I think of holding it down, does this feel like an obligation for you, or does this feel like something that is just in your soul that you know you have to do? Versus when I think of an obligation, I feel like because when sometimes obligations aren't things that you want to do, they're just things that you feel pressured into, whether it's family, culture, relationships, whatever. Do you feel like
Right.
this is more something you're forced into, or do you feel like this is something that you just have to do as being like a family man? And
Uh, I think it's both. I think growing up, there's been many situations where, unfortunately, my family has gotten into physical altercations. And the one thing that I learned very quickly is that if you do not react, you'll probably get reacted on.
mm,
And so, watching my different siblings go through these types of things kind of instilled into me this fierceness. Like, man, I gotta be the first one my brother sees. And we've also talked about it, right? And I've seen the way that my brothers have stepped up for me, like, and no questions asked. One of my brothers, man, as soon as he sees or catches a whiff of someone disrespecting me, I just see him flying straight and like going towards the person, and I'm like, hey man, chill. And so that's kind of what it is about. I try not to glorify that too much anymore, just because I'm less about using my hands and being violent these days.
mm,
But it still is a part of me, right? Like
for sure.
if I see anybody that I love being mistreated, I'm probably gonna be the first one you see, and I
Hmm.
pride myself on that. It's a little bit of toxic masculinity mixed in with internalized stereotypes of being someone you're scary, you need to fight, but also it's a sense of protection.
Hmm.
That was a mouthful of words. My bad.
No, for sure. So like holding it down for you, does that kind of represent like protection in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it's like protection, making sure people know that the people that I love and I surround myself with, they are protected, and do not, you have no reason to try to take away that protection or that safety.
For sure. So final song on the album is called Doubt.
You know?
And do you think doubt is different from depression, or do you think it's like a steep slope to depression, or what are your opinions on doubt?
Ooh, let's see, man. You really got me listening to this album, man.
Hell yeah.
I'm kind of impressed by how much you kind of been breaking everything down. It's a little bit of both. I think that no matter how well, depending on who you are, for me, uh, no matter how much recognition I get, no matter how many times people tell me I'm great and good at something, all it takes is one negative comment to kind of push me away. Or I start to play tricks on myself. Like, I'm like, man, you're not really that good, bro. Like, you're tripping. They don't know what they're talking about. And so that anxiety around being good or being accepted kind of slowly puts you into this funk of depression where you do one of two things. You retreat and you don't do nothing at all, or you throw yourself into work and you throw yourself into things to overcome that. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, it's a little bit of both.
What do you do personally to overcome doubt or even signs of depression?
And lately, it's a couple of things. I think getting outside into nature has been really helpful for me. Taking walks, going around, but also just like jumping, full head into whatever. Like the first time I went on a tour with these guys, I was scared out of my mind, and I did not want to go. But it just kind of got to the point where I was like, man, if I don't try all these things and do it now, I'm gonna look back at my life and be pissed.
Hmm.
And so just doing it. I sound like a Nike commercial. Nike head ass.
For sure. So if you could have one word to represent this whole album, what would it be?
I'm gonna just say the first word that came to my mind was acceptance. Uh, there's a lot of good, a lot of happiness. There's also a lot of sadness that I talk about. Um, but never once in the album do I say I give up.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm intentional about that always to be like, I might talk about feeling like it, but you'll see me and I'm not going to. And I've accepted everything that's happened. And so I think it's it.
And what do you want your fans and new listeners to get out of this album? What are your goals for this album for people to hear?
Uh, I just hope that people can feel it. I know that might sound very generic, um, but that people can hear one or two lines from the album and be like, that is exactly how I feel. And I no longer feel alone because somebody else has said and named exactly how I'm feeling right
Mhm.
now. I think anytime a musical artist can do that, um, man, that's the best. Because it's also a great feeling for me when people reach out to me and they're like, "Yo, I just listened to the wall, and this line really stood out to me." Man, that makes me emotional myself. And I'm like, man, I'm not alone. I never was alone. I never really am. So I think that's what it is.
For sure. So let's quickly go over this album cover. So it's like a chair in the middle of the road, and there's like two cars to the side. What is the process behind that?
Uh, that is up for interpretation, but for the most part, we had an idea of the chair. Actually, we had an idea of being on that street because that's the street I grew up on. And that's the street where me and my brothers played basketball on. That street means so much to me. One of my brothers was on house arrest for 2 years, and for 2 years, yeah, he was on house arrest, and he was still in high school, going to school. Yeah, I'll tell you, my house was crazy. This on that street where you see me standing, like that's where we played basketball for hours because he couldn't go anywhere else but right there on that street. That was his parameter.
Damn.
So you would see the ball roll down the street, and he would run like, hey man, someone go get that because if you went too far, you know what I mean.
Oh shit.
Um, and then that's the street that also so many fights had, just like so much great things and bad things. And so that's where the street comes in. Um, the chair, I was supposed to be standing on there, and then I kind of end up not there anymore. In like the promo video, kind of making me fade out in and out to represent, one of my brothers being gone or missing. But when we got there was a chair sitting in front of my old house. So I was like, man, I'm gonna just go and take this chair. I don't know if anyone is here right now. So we took the chair, we put it in the middle of the street. We took some shots sitting, some shots of it by itself. And that was only supposed to be for the promo.
Mm.
But the more I started talking about the idea of me being in that chair and no longer being in that chair, and that representing a piece of myself being, missing, and a piece of my, one of my brothers being missing, the more I was like, man, maybe this should be the album cover. We were all also pressed for time. And so when we started talking about this idea, I was like, bro, this is tight. So originally it was centered, but Cam was like, hey, bro, you know my Lexus is parked right there, and you can see the bumper sticker. It says West on it, man. And I was like, really? And so we moved it left, and not only do you get the street and the chair, but you also get West for West Seattle, baby. And so we were like, nah, that's the album cover right there.
Hell yeah. I think it's
Yeah,
pretty cool. That's pretty creative. I liked the background story behind it.
yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, and like I said, man, like I'm definitely a fan now. I really enjoyed your album, and it's crazy because my whole goal is to give Seattle artists a spotlight, and one day I'll just wake up and like there's a new artist that I've noticed, and I'm like, I have to check out their music. And I was hooked from the very first song I heard. So
Yeah.
congratulations on the
Thank
album, and
you.
I'll be promoting it some more, and I hope this interview helped people understand the album a little bit better.
Yeah,
So
man, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you, man. I mean, like I was saying when we were messaging earlier, just to have people who are passionate about Seattle voices, or local voices in particular, that's a special kind of want, right? Because you're not necessarily wanting to be the center of attention, but what you're saying is, I have a gift to help others elevate the voices that I too resonate with, right? And so I think that's a really, really dope passion. And I'm excited to see where you go. Shoot, maybe in 10 years, we'll both be on MTV interviewing each
for sure, man.
other.
So Glendale, do you have any advice for up and coming artists, creators, influencers?
Oh, man. Just be yourself. Be yourself and love on people. And also, man, support each other. I think that's one huge thing, right? Up in Seattle, especially. Like, people are always hating and always knocking on each other. I get the messages every now and then, like, oh, you're trash, you're garbage. Everyone does music. You don't want to. And just, I think that if collectively Seattle artists continue to support each other, we would have blown up way long time ago. And so support each other and be yourself.
For sure. So I end the podcast by saying this is the NAS podcast, and you say your name. So this is the NAS podcast with
Glendal TauTua.